Today I want to talk about parental stress and family patterns, something that I see time and time again in regards to emotional baggage being passed down through the generation, plays out as follows. When we're kids, we go through certain things with our parents, certain things that are very emotionally painful, certain things that we didn't feel like they handled themselves in the best way. And we make a promise to ourselves in that moment that the day that we grow up and we have kids of our own, we will never treat our kids the way that we were treated in this particular situation. So then we grow up from these kids ourselves up into adults and we start to go through life. Life happens to us. We don't realize that we need to look after our mental and emotional health the same way we look after our physical health, which is something that needs to change. We need to take proactive steps to look after our physical health in whatever form that takes, but we just don't seem to value that mental and emotional health as high. So we grow into adults and we end up having kids of our own. When we have kids, things are very, very stressful. They're stressful in of themselves being a parent, but also our societal structure and the systems in place make it even more stressful for parents, too stressful in fact, especially for mothers. When we are in a stressed state, we will start to resort from our conscious mind back into our most primal and emotional programming. So when something happens, when we're very, very stressed, we resort back to this old programming. When we're in that stressed state, we start to get confronted with situations where we start to react the same way to our kids that we were reacted to by our parents that we promised we would never do. So let's say that maybe when we were a kid, we would throw a tantrum and our mum and dad would say, "You're being a sook, you're just doing it for attention," and we hated that so much and we swore we would never do that. Then all of a sudden, all these years later, when we're a parent, our child's having a tantrum, we're extremely stressed about being a parent and all these other factors in life, and we say those exact same words: "Stop being a sook, you're just doing it for attention." As soon as we're conscious of those words leaving our mouth and landing on our child, it brings up so much guilt and shame for us because we're doing the exact thing that we said to ourselves we would never do. When we then go into a state of guilt and shame, it adds more stress to our system. When we get more stressed, we revert more back to that primal programming we had when we were a child, and we start saying and doing more things that we didn't want to over and over again. You can see how this is a vicious cycle that really perpetuates a state of extreme stress and emotional distress within us. What happens then when we go down this spiral far enough, where we keep saying things we don't want to say, doing things that we don't want to do, being riddled with guilt and shame, we start using coping mechanisms to try and deal with all of that stress and pain within our system. As parents, we can start drinking or smoking or using drugs or turn into food or turn into Netflix, different ways of tuning out, dissociating from the pain that we've found ourselves in. Then we get to a point, and I see this time and time again, where parents just give up. They give up trying to do the right thing. They give up trying to be present. They give up trying to be with the pain. And life then becomes very, very grey. Life loses all its colour. Life is no fun at all. And we're in a state of survival all the time, just waiting for a period of our life to be over. When that's not what we want. Any area of our life, we want to be fun, we want to be full of colour, and we want to, be in some form of joy and growth with. The way that we get out of this, the first step is obviously awareness. It's the first step to change in any area of our life. We cannot change what we are not aware of. So next time, as a parent, you find yourself maybe saying or doing something that you don't want to be saying or doing, then you can notice that, hey, in order for me to have done that, I must have been in a very stressed state. And even though I'm feeling guilty and shameful about that, I'm choosing to let this guilt and shame go because I understand now where that comes from. And I can go now to my son or daughter, tell them that I was stressed, tell them that I'm sorry, and start to make up for what was done. And then I can start to take steps around my mental and emotional health and my basic programming. And that means reaching out and working with someone so that I can start to ease my stress load, but also change that old programming. Because when we start to ease that stress load, have someone who we feel safe with that we can talk to, starting to alter that behavior, and that programming, it has so many positive effects in our life. Because a less stressed you is not only better for you, because everyone wants to be less stressed, but it's better for those tiny humans that we have to look after as well, not to mention our husbands, wives, extended family, friends, the whole shoot and match. So become aware of it, let go of the guilt and shame, start to work on that mental and emotional health like we would our physical health. And the other beautiful benefit of that is we can start to break these family patterns, these genealogical dynamics that have been playing out who knows far back in our genealogical line, but they don't have to play out in the future, and that starts with you in this moment right now. It is not your fault the way that you reacted when you're under stress and in an emotional state, but it is your responsibility as to what happens next.